What's up, you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on Hashtag Confirmed, the rest of the Focus School trees have been revealed in all of their glory. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm kind of shocked because I thought I knew what I was going to like and what I wasn't going to like, but now I'm kind of feeling a ways about certain trees that I wasn't feeling before, so I am definitely excited to see how everything plays out when the actual update goes live. Now, there are a couple bits of housekeeping before we actually go ahead and jump into the video. First and foremost, from yesterday's video, a lot of people were kind of abuzz about the channeling in Xenuric. There's a channeling passive that occurs there. I want to stress that at this moment, as of 8 a.m. this morning when I went ahead and spoke to Rebecca, that is strictly melee channeling. That has nothing to do with the channeling of your Warframes. It is channeling for melee weapons, so definitely keep that in mind. Next thing, all of the stats that I've actually pulled from the stream are the maxed out variations, so just keep in mind that's how much you're gonna get when you can get as far as you can into them. The only ones that we aren't talking about maxed out are gonna be the waybound abilities, because you do need a special magic thing from the planes in order to actually unlock them all away, but I'll give you as maxed out as I possibly can for those. So let's go ahead and jump into my current tree, which may not end up being my current tree in the end, Naramon. So let's start off with Void Stalker. This one increases the critical chance of melee attacks by 50% over 5 seconds. The chance gradually decreases over 20 seconds when the operator leaves void mode. This ability costs an extra additional 4 energy per second. So basically what this does is when you get into void mode, you charge yourself up for a bit and you get a bonus 50% chance to crit. Now at this moment in time, I haven't learned whether it's additional, additive, or whether it's multiplicative. I'll actually go ahead and leave a pinned comment down below if I find out that information. But basically, after you get into void mode, you can pop back into your Warframe and you can start dealing melee damage with them over a certain amount of time, and you'll get a nice little bonus that does decrease slowly over 20 seconds. But it's a nice little buff, and if you have any kind of issues about getting your Berserker going, because you guys know, like straight out the gate, sometimes you Berserker on weapons that you really need more attack speed on, you can actually go ahead and, you know, sync this with a melee weapon that desperately needs Berserker, but sometimes takes a little bit of time to build it up. So this way you can get full stacks on that and kind of like maintain that. And of course you've got body count going off on that as well. So it's definitely nice for situations like that. Next up we have Void Hunter, which I'm kind of meh on this, but Void Mode reveals enemies within 20 meters through walls. The ability costs an additional 1 energy per second. Seeing enemies through walls just isn't anything that I really value, so I'm kind of bummed out on this one. But the way that I think about it this way is it's one node that I can skip out on and I can use points for something else, right? Like executing dash. Holy sweet baby Jesus, can we talk about executing dash. Void Dash no longer displaces enemies. Instead, it will open them up to finishers and increase finisher damage taken by 35%. What? That is pretty goddamn stinking cool. I am really excited about that. It might be a little bit finicky to work out straight out of the gate, because when you're still trying to get your keybinds, you know, kind of used to jumping in from into operator and out of operator, I think it might feel a little weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, I think it'll be cool to open up combos like that. Next thing to go along with that, Surging Dash creates a wave while dashing, increasing the damage by 30% and the area effect around the operator by 2 meters. So you get bonus damage on your dashes as well, which is kind of nice and gives you a little bit more of a width to it, because, you know, girth counts. Moving on to Disorienting Blast. This one has a 50% chance of confusing enemies for 16 seconds, causing them to be unable to distinguish between friend or foe. So legitimately what this is kind of like a radiation proc. I'm gonna be honest with you right there, and from what I've seen so far, the radius of our blast abilities, our void blast abilities, just aren't very big. So to me, this doesn't seem massively appealing, unless of course maybe we're in void mode and then we go ahead and use the disarming blast to confuse the enemies. But legitimately for me, it's not something that's that great, to be honest with you. It's not bad, but it's just right now I'm not feeling it. Disarming blast follows that one up, and enemies hit by void blast have a 50% chance to be disarmed. So basically, Disarming Blast and Disorienting Blast together basically make Loki's Irradiating Disarm, but at a much shorter range. It's alright. The 50-50, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm feeling. Again, maybe it's because I'm like, you know, I'm a dirty stinking Loki main, and I, you know, love using Irradiating Disarm already, so I don't necessarily see the value in this. But maybe for some other frames, and hey, you know what? If you guys have any suggestions, leave that in the comments below as to which frames will do really, really well with the Disorienting Blast / Disarming Blast combination. For me, I don't know so much. Now, let's go ahead and jump into Naramon's passives. You guys have already heard these before from me, but we actually get to see the top level of all of these. So, Affinity Spike grants 45% more affinity from melee kills, which is a good chunk of affinity. So, I'm going to say right now, this is going to be fantastic for anybody who likes to do the stealth focus farms with Equinox or Avara. Fantastic. I think it's going to be amazing. And you also get Power Spike, which increases melee damage by 50%. So those two, that's going to be your affinity focus farm combo right there. If you want to be solo and you don't want to deal with anybody in 80 groups, you're just like, listen, leave me the hell alone. I just want to go ahead and focus farm. That's going to be a fantastic one for you. Now, Mind Step, which is the Waybound ability. So keep in mind that these Waybound abilities need one more slot at the very end to rank up completely, but you will need an Eidolon shard in order to unlock it. Unlocking it at that rank makes it unlocked for all of the other trees, so you'll have it available to you no matter what. But this one, the Bind Step, increases the movement speed of the operator by 20%, which is what I said before, and kind of works really, really well with, you know, the fact that we kind of want to press the operators for more movement and to be a little bit more fluid. So it's nice to have that movement speed added in because of the fact that, you know, you're going to need to be a little bit more mobile. I know that even though you're going to have augments and you're going to have buffs from other trees, if we're going to be realistic about it, you're still not going to be the tankiest guy on the block. You know, so I'm just saying it's nice to have a little more movement speed to help you kind of dodge around, especially if you're dodging around Eidolon stuff. And then Mind Sprint increases the speed of Void Dash by 20%. And that's, you know, of course, up to the Eidolon shard point. It's alright. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know if that's something that I'm going to go for ASAP. There are definitely some other kind of waybound passives that I would rather take on as opposed to increasing the speed of Void Dash. But, you know what, let's go ahead and take a look at that right now, actually. Let's jump right into Vazarin. So, Vazarin is amazing. Let's go ahead and start with Void Regen. Void Regen heals 4 hit points per second. This ability costs an additional 2 energy per second when you're in Void mode. So you get in Void mode and you regenerate health. Very simple, very easy, very to the point, and keeps your ass alive. I like it. Void Aegis goes along with that, and this Void mode creates a shell that grows up, shield, not a shell, that grows up for 12 meters over 5 seconds. This ability costs an additional 2 energy per second. So when they were actually showing this ability off, they didn't talk too much about its actual effects. They were just kind of showing what it visually looked like. And a part of me is kind of like, maybe it like stops bullets from coming in. Maybe it's a little bit like a Volt's shield or something. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that myself, but it emits this shield that grows. And it's there, and it'll maybe block projectiles. I will see. Moving along, this is like the one. This is what makes me happy, which is Protective Dash. Allies hit by Void Dash are granted immunity from damage for 6 seconds. This applies not only to the people you dash through, but also to you. And I was like, immunity for 6 seconds. Hell yes! Super excited. That one's going to be fantastic. And then paired along with Sonic Dash, it gets even better. Void Dash no longer displaces enemies. Instead, it emits a shock wave of 14 meters wide and travels 8 meters, stunning enemies it hits. So now not only are you making yourself invincible, you're also stunning enemies as you pass through them. I was like, that's fantastic, CC. I want to see it in action because I want to know how long this stun is gonna stay for. If it's just kind of like an impact stagger or something along the lines, I mean, that's fine. That'll also kind of stop enemies from attacking for a moment, which helps reduce damage taken by other players who may not necessarily be, you know, in your radius, right? So that I'm definitely like thumbs up to that. Now we're gonna go take a look at the different Void Blasts, starting with Guardian Shell. Void Blast can be charged to manifest a shield that drains energies for every 300 damage absorbed. So basically, I don't know if you I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's similar to kind of like maybe Reinhardt's shield. Like you hold your hands up and you create this shield that like protects you and possibly anybody behind you from any damage, but every hit you take does absorb some of your energy until you can't maintain it anymore. To go along with that, Guardian Blast consumes 2 energy for each ally hit within an 8-meter radius and grants them 100 shields. I don't really know how I'm going to feel about that, because legitimately I'm already going to be like blocking damage, and 100 shields doesn't necessarily feel like a whole lot, but like I had said at the very beginning of this video, we can't really judge based off of the numbers that we see here, because legitimately this is just, you know, this is all on the dev server. I'm sure they're going to be getting feedback on this because this was streamed live to the community, so I'm sure they've got something to say. But yeah, it seems a little bit, I'm a little bit like, 100 shields, really? I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into the passive, starting with Mending Soul. This is the one you all love. The next 4 revives are instantaneous, and of course that is maxed up all the way, so you still have your instant revives, which, I'll be honest with you, I discounted for the longest time. I didn't think that instant revives really meant anything or were worth anything, but legitimately, there were some missions that were like super duper ridiculously tough. I believe we were like going into late waves of the pacifism defect, and oh my god, those instant revives were like absolute magic. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like I don't know how I live without it. And I'll be honest with you, Vazarin is looking better and fucking better. Like I'm looking at its passives, I'm looking at what it can do, and for me personally, I'm like, this could be a thing. Mending Unity. Affinity radius is increased by 25 meters. That's fine. I mean, good for focus farming, right? Now on to the Wave-bound passives. It's a mouthful, you know? I know how mouthfuls go, and that's a big one. Enduring Tides increases the health of the operator by 500%. But, of course, there is still room for that, because there's the last Eidolon Shard that makes it unbound and applies to all of the operators. Next up, and when I say all of the operators, I mean like all of the different trees your operators are spec'd in. Not every single operator, because that would be OP. Now we've got Rejuvenating Tides. This one increases the health regeneration of the operator by 3 seconds. And of course, that is before the Eidolon Shard, so it might end up being 4 seconds. Now this, combined with, what is it? The Void Regen will actually give you a pretty decent health recharge rate when you're in Void mode. So it's kind of like a nice way to duck in and get yourself back up on your feet. Vazarin is going to prove to be a very, very hardy focus tree to go into. You're going to be able to stay alive a lot with this on your operator, and I'm kind of juiced about it. I'm going to be honest with you. Vazarin might be the one I'm looking at. We'll see. So let's go ahead and jump into Unairu, which is another defensive tree. So starting with Void Shadow. Void mode now renders allies within 25 meters invisible. Invisible. This ability costs an additional 4 energy per second. I mean, it's basically like Ash's Smoke Shadow and probably lasts a little bit longer if you just hang around for a bit. Sorry, this me being mean. That's me being mean. Moving on, we have Void Chrysalis. Void mode reduces damage taken by invisible allies within 20 meters by 80%. That is a, like, shit ton. Like, that is like something's happened and you need to, like, make sure everybody's okay. This is like the Mama Bear ability. And I'm liking it. I'm liking it. It does cost additional energy per second, so do keep that in mind, especially if you have multiple allies in there, right? Is it just multiple allies, or is it just for every ally? I don't know. I think it's just additional energy per second, so keep your energy high for that one. We've got Sundering Dash, and this one, the next 2 dash abilities, I'm kind of like, man, this could be good, this could be bad. Sundering Dash, using Void Dash through an enemy will reduce their armor by 75%. Not 100%, but I think 75 is still a good enough chunk to be respectable, to be able to say, yeah, that took them down a good notch, right? At least personally, I feel like it does a good job. It's not necessarily stripping their armor completely, but you know, it's there and you can still have your corrosive dealing bonus damage, right? So that's a thing. Crippling Dash, because, okay, let me clarify what I just said there. Because when you strip off armor completely, that's when enemies are only don't take any bonus damage from things like corrosive or radiation versus ferrite and the other armor. I forgot what the other armor name is. But yeah, once that yellow bar is gone, they no longer take weakness and they no longer take weaknesses and resistance for it. So they only take weakness and resistance for the actual flesh types that they have. But this way, if you reduce their armor by 75% and you've got corrosive on your weapon, you're still going to be dealing a good chunk of damage because you can still take advantage of that 75% damage boost because of the fact that technically, even though it's less armor, they still have armor on. So something to keep in mind. Crippling Dash uses Void Dash through an enemy will reduce their damage by 25%. So this is actually a great kind of like debuff combo, especially if maybe like you've taken out the rest of the trash and you're really only dealing with 1 or 2 enemies that are giving you a hard time. You could dash through them once, maybe even twice, to kind of knock them down a couple pegs. I'm not sure if the effect stacks, but you never know. Cross your fingers, maybe they do. And then you'll be able to pop back into your Warframe and kind of take out the enemies at that. Magnetic Blast. Now this one is really, really interesting, and I'm kind of like, ooh, I wish the radius of Void Blast was a little bit more, and we'll get to that in a second, but Magnetic Blast hits, enemies hit by Void Blast are affected by Bullet Attractor for 10 seconds. So this one I thought was really, really interesting, and I kind of loved the thought of it, except for the fact that you do have to be fairly close to your enemies in order to get it on there. It's not like, you could be a ways away, hit him with Void Blast, then boom, they've got like these bullet attractors on there, because then you have to jump back into your Warframe, and literally those enemies are probably in melee range anyway. So part of me is like, I don't know. They did say on stream that they noticed that enemies' bullets were also being attracted to it. Again, like I wasn't there to playtest it myself. I kind of have to trust what's going on their end to kind of, make it visible for us. So if that's the case, maybe you can jump back into your operator and feel a little bit safer because of the fact that bullets that were meant for you or that they're trying to shoot at you are going back at them. That's something to consider. Like I said, I'm going to have to test this myself and let you guys know 100%, but I do think it's interesting and does kind of synergize with a couple other things that are going on. So this one I thought was really, really cool. Unairu Wisp. A 100% chance on Void Blast to summon a Wisp that can be picked up by allies to increase operator damage by 100% for 12 seconds. I was like, alright, this is kind of cool though. But legitimately that will apply more into the, the Void Beam weapons, because Unairu doesn't seem to be all that offensive when it comes to Void Blast or their Void Dash. There's no additional damage kind of tied into any of those, more like debuffs and kind of like debuffs and buffs for your team to kind of do all that stuff. So a part of me is like, it's interesting, but how it would have to tie into a good Void Beam weapon. Moving on, we've got Mirror Flare, which affects 25% of the damage you take back to the attackers. So that's going to be your passive. I believe they said that was going to be for both Operator and for both Warframe, so that's definitely nice. And then Stone Skin increases armor for Warframe and Operator by 20%. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not super excited about this. I would like to see how this affects maybe some of the Worn Augments that could be, coming up in the future. Maybe we're going to have some nice, chunky, heavily armored augments that we can toss in, and hopefully this will increase that also by 20%. We'll have to see how it all pans out. Basilisk Scales increases the armor for Operator by 20%. So if you stack that with Stone Skin. So Basilisk Scales is one of the Waybound passives. So you stack Basilisk Scales with Stone Skin, and you get like a 40% increase to your armor for your Operator. So like, again, I was saying, I'm crossing my fingers that translates into a bonus on top of armor and everything too. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. Then Basilisk Gaze. This one, I'm like, this could be a thing. We'll have to see what the actual range is. So this one increases the radius of Void Blast by 60%. So that sounds really fucking cool, and because of the fact that it's a Waybound ability, this stretches not just to your Operator who's using Unairu. This could be combined with, let's say, a Matarai user, right? Increases the radius of Void Blast by 60%. A Matarai user has that big Hadouken thing, right? So that they can fucking fire off a Hadouken, so it potentially has the ability to increase the size of that, at least if that's the way synergy is working in my head, right? It's a passive waybound ability, right? We should be able to do it no matter what. So I found that to be really, really interesting. But like for just standard use within Unairu, I'm kind of feeling like let's be real, like Void Blast in itself seems to be anywhere from 3, and I'm gonna be generous and say 7 meters. Honestly, I feel like it's like 5 meters. Like you got a 5-meter range on it, but I'm gonna give you an extra 2 meters because I'm trying to be nice. And 60% of that really isn't all that much, you know? I mean, it can stretch out to maybe 10 meters max. I still feels really, really short range specifically for use in Unairu, but you never know, the other trees out there might have some really, really cool synergies along with it. So that's definitely why I think that it's something to pick up. But that's just my opinion on that. There were a couple other things that they did note with the operator, like we caught them using the new Void Beam kind of modulator things. They only had the basic ones in, so we only saw the standard beam, but they did seem to be able to level it up. They did seem to be able to gain affinity, so I'm almost wondering if each of those weapons almost acts like our own weapon. And I'm really, really excited for the potentiality of that. Regardless, let me know how your favorite tree is faring, whether it is Madarai or, oh my god, what did we cover yesterday? Madarai or the other one, or Zeneric. Naramon, Vazarin, Unairu, whichever one, let me know how your favorite tree is faring and if you're planning on staying within that tree or if another tree has enticed you away. Because I definitely know that I'm looking at Vazarin and I'm like, I'm glad I leveled you up before Madarai. Because as you guys know, I only have Vazarin and Madarai left. I'm almost done with Vazarin and then I'm going to move into Madarai. But legitimately I was like, I'm glad I didn't pick I'm glad I didn't pick Madarai first and then move to Vazarin, because I'm looking at Vazarin like, ooh, you could be a thing, baby. I'm really into you right now. Naramon, on the other hand, I'm feeling less of a ways about. I'm like, you've got a cool finisher dash. That's really, really interesting. Madarai looks really, really fun. So yeah, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about all of that. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. We got so many other things to talk about, and there's a charity stream this weekend. So many things to do, but I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.